Heat, bringing big ideas and critical opinions in Southeast Asia.
Hey, this is Arlene and you're listening to Durian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing. Today on our Durian Heat, we're going to discuss not on politics or economy, but on a topic that is more towards social cultural and is in line with Durian ASEAN partnership with diversity. One of the performance or curator is focusing more on traditional arts, and of course we have PUSAKA here as the curator for diversity on the area of traditional performing arts. Hi.
Hi, how are you, Arlene?
I'm good. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
So, there will be a lot of performers that you invited all over Southeast Asia as well as globally.
Yes. For Diversity 2015, we really wanted to present both some of the best, some of the really most distinguished performers of traditional music in the world, as well as highlight some of the wonderful traditions that we have in the region, in the ASEAN region, while also, of course, showcasing some of the wonderful traditions that we have in Malaysia.
And why do you think this is important? Like, do you think the younger generation has lost out from knowing their own tradition?
Well, not totally. I think actually many of the young people are very much interested in traditional culture. One of the things that PUSAKA has experienced in the decades that we've worked in traditional culture is that there is a great interest and passion actually among young people to engage with tradition. Sometimes perhaps they don't have enough exposure to authentic tradition, which is sometimes a little bit of an obstacle, because I think many young people, at least in Malaysia, sometimes they have a perception that culture is something that is, outdated and obsolete and not relevant to their lives. However, I think when this is the case for most people, including young urban people, I think if they have an opportunity to engage with real masters of tradition and with great artists of traditional culture, I think they are immediately drawn to it and immediately captivated. And many of them go out and contact us and contact traditional masters on their own.
Hence, you have diversity.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a natural combination. Yeah, diversity. The entire festival is a natural combination of many artistic talents in Malaysia, across all kinds of genres. Yeah. So with tradition, PUSAKA has been working with at least 20 different groups just in the peninsular Malaysia, and these are authentic groups, community-driven groups that have developed organically. These are not groups that are nurtured by institutions, and all of them have a very high level of artistry.
That's amazing, especially in the era of reality TV, MTV, and K-pop. You want something different to expose to the younger generation. So when it comes to the different groups of people that you have engaged and you are bringing for diversity, maybe you can mention. I think they are 70s, right?
Well, we have, more than that, actually.
More than that.
We have about 70 international performers that we're bringing. But the local performers are around almost over 200 and something, over 200 local performers.
You probably know everyone in Malaysia, it seems like.
No, to be honest, no. There's actually many more we don't know. But just the ones who we are already engaging with, it's many of them. And of those 200 people, the local performers, many of them are young. So, that's something which I think is quite surprising to many people, that many of the traditional performers in communities these days are young people.
Can you mention a couple of those local ones that will be coming?
The local performers, we're of course going to showcase our wonderful wayang kulit troupe, who recently performed in Publica, but they are always such a highlight and really draw a fantastic crowd.
How young they are, by the way.
Yeah, some of them are very young. Some of them, the star performer is 13 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, and he started playing at the age of 8 and has already mastered some of the percussive instruments of the wayang kulit. And he's the son, of course, of the master musician. And his brother, 18-year-old brother, is there as well. We have 2 other young men in their 20s. And then the rest of them are older musicians who have been actually continuing the legacy of Tok Dalang.
These are wayang kulit groups from Kelantan, I suppose?
Yes, this group is from Kelantan, and this group is, they are the descendants and the legacy, they continue the legacy of Tok Dalang Dola Baju Merah, who was one of the great wayang kulit dalangs of Malaysia, and who passed away 10 years ago. So we're closing actually the Diversity Festival with a special tribute performance by this wayang kulit group in tribute to Dalang Dola Baju Merah.
Oh, that's amazing. And others? We are bringing a wonderful
Teochew puppetry performance from Penang. This is, of course, with the master puppeteer, Lingo. Lingo is one of the very few master performers of Teochew puppetry and also Teochew opera. And
these are dying arts and culture, right?
Well, in a way, of course, we never like to use the word dying because obviously they are very much alive. If these masters like Lingo and this wayang kulit group and also our Mak Yong performers, they keep it alive. And it's very much alive in their blood and in their life. So we'd never like to use the word dying. Because if
they're alive and still breathing.
No, they absolutely are. And also the interest and participation of young people, if anything, I think testifies to the great survival of these art forms.
And besides that, do you have any performance from Sabah and Sarawak and other parts of Malaysia?
Well, yes, we do. We have the wonderful Nutting Rhapsody, who's coming from Sarawak.
Wow.
They're a wonderful ethnic avant-garde group who play very wonderful, always very evocative in their performances. They play sort of contemporary music infused and inspired by traditional and ethnic traditions of their own Sarawak culture. They're all deeply rooted in their Sarawak culture, and they sort of interpret it in a contemporary way.
So these are the real Malaysia that we are seldom exposed. I guess maybe living in the urban area, we always think that, okay, KL is the center of Malaysia. But if you go outside of Malaysia, there's just so many like ethnic groups and really interesting culture that are just hidden from us.
Yes, absolutely. We're bringing, of course, a wonderful Kuda Kepang group as well.
Wow.
Who's always also draws a big crowd every time they perform. They're really charismatic performers. They are coming as well, of course, from Johor, from Parit Raja Johor. We're also doing actually a special night called Rintak Bumi. That is going to be bringing sort of diverse rhythmic traditions from across the country.
Rintak Bumi is like rhythm of the earth.
Rhythm of the earth, yes. And we're bringing, I think about 6 or 7 different rhythmic traditions.
Wow.
All in one night together on one stage. Yeah, and so I'm ending with a 100-man Dike Barat performance, which is going to be quite something.
Wow.
Yeah, but that's just the local performance. Wait till you hear about the international acts.
So how many international acts? You just mentioned 70.
Yeah, well, 70 performers, but that is, let me see, we have 5 different international groups, some of whom are extremely distinguished. There's the great Mugam singer of Azerbaijan, Alim Kazimov, who is really one of the most celebrated traditional singers in the world today.
Wow.
He's on par with people like Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan. I mean, he's really highly regarded in circles of both ethnomusicologists as well as the world music industry and scholars and connoisseurs of traditional arts everywhere. He's been awarded the UNESCO, the International Music Award by UNESCO, which is, I think, one of the highest awards that you can be bestowed on a musician.
So he's famous for us, bringing out the tradition of Azerbaijan. Perhaps you can share with us maybe some of the Azerbaijan unique culture and also maybe Central Asia as a whole. Yeah,
well, Azerbaijan, of course, is located. Many people may not even know where it is. I'll start by introducing where Azerbaijan is.
Geography 101.
Geography 101. Yeah, so Azerbaijan is located in the southern Caucasus, which is a region between the Caspian Sea and the Black Sea. And this is a region, it's a region north of Iran and Turkey and south of Russia. And in that region you find Georgia, Armenia, places like that. So this is what was called the Caucasus. It was part of the Soviet Union for many decades. But in the 1990s then, of course, after the fall of the Soviet bloc, they are all now independent states. And so, but of course, Azerbaijan has a long, long history.
Yeah.
And as you can imagine, because of its location, it is really a center. It's a sort of crossroads for influences of Turkish culture, influences of Persian culture, which are distinct, by the way. They're not actually, Persian and Turkish culture are actually very distinct from each other. And so
That's another thing that we need to...
because many people think it's the same, but it's really not. It's very different. And Azeri culture is, of course, has its own distinctness, and then it has influences from Turkish as well as Persian, as well as their own folk traditions. And the Mugam tradition is a classical form of singing, that you actually find variants of the Mugam tradition throughout Central Asia, also in Persia, and also in the Arabic lands.
What does Mugam means?
That's a good question.
We will ask him during the event itself.
Yes, but what it is, though, what Mugam actually is, or refers to, is that it's a modal system of music.
Okay.
Yeah, and so it's very, very complex. I mean, some people, also, this is something else, that I think PUSAKA tries to dispel the perception that some people think traditional music is simple, but it really isn't. It's not. Sometimes traditional music is some of the most complex in the world. If you look at traditional Indian music, it's some of the most complex.
Yeah.
Mugam, I think, might be even more so.
Yeah.
Very, very complex. It is a modal system of music, meaning that it has particular scales, modular scales, so not the typical Western scale that you are used to listening to. And each of those modes is also related to certain rhythmic and melodic patterns, certain moods and certain occasions at which they're sung. And so I think, and in each of those variant, let's say the variations of Mugam that you find throughout Central Asia in places like Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, you also find the Uyghurs of Xinjiang also have their own kind of style of Mugam as well. And of course, the Arabic lands do as well. Persia has its own, I suppose Turkey has its own. And so, but the Azeri, I think they have 7 different main modes in which they sing, and each of them has a different name. Each of them has a slightly different feel, and each of them has a different sort of a scale that's associated with it. The interesting thing about Mugam is that they combine poetry, ancient poetry, both religious, but also some secular poetry, love poetry, for example, with a great deal of improvisation. And so you find this recital of very, very beautiful poetry, and then the Mugam singer takes off into flight on this wonderful improvisation, which is, and this is really the great beauty of the Mugam. And Azerbaijan has recognized really Alim Kazimov to be the greatest Mugam singer of their land, and I think he's been touring the world now for many decades, and everyone who hears him, I think, is just completely struck by the magic of his voice.
Would this be his first time coming to Southeast Asia or Malaysia?
Definitely to Malaysia. I can't think of when he might have come to Southeast Asia, but I will play it safe by saying it's definitely the first time in Malaysia.
So it would be interesting for Southeast Asian listeners and also
yes,
viewers.
Absolutely. It's a very rare thing to actually have him here. I mean, he has performed in Japan, I think last year, but he performs very often in the West. The great appreciation for his music actually has come from Europe, and more so now also in the United States. I mean, when he goes to Europe and the States, he performs in really the highest places.
So this is really a golden opportunity for Malaysians and Southeast Asians to get to know Alim Kazimov, right?
Alim Kazimov. Yeah. It's also, I think, because we're so we have many Muslims in this country as well, and because we live with Islam, I think it's an interesting way and opportunity to also learn about how Islam is expressed or traditions that come from Muslim lands.
Will he be speaking to the audience?
Well, he is going to give some interviews. Yeah, I don't think we're going to do like a question and answer session in the concert itself, but we are going to set up interviews outside of that.
Oh, that would be interesting.
Yes, because it is a very interesting tradition. And and it says a lot, I think, also about the Muslim tradition and how open actually Muslim traditions are.
Yeah. That's the other side of Islam, other than what we expose in Malaysia.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to actually recognize and embrace those things because they do exist, and they exist at a very, very sublime level.
And we'll take one short break. After that, we will continue with more international acts as well as local acts from Southeast Asia and Malaysia, and of course,
The Durian Heat, bringing big ideas and critical opinions in Southeast Asia.
Hey, this is Arlene, and you're back again with me and of course Pauline from PUSAKA to share with us on the diversity, where they are the curator for traditional arts and culture and music. So the next stop, you also invite others besides Arlene Kasimov from internationally to perform in Malaysia. Can you share with us some of the other acts?
Yes, another act that we're really excited about bringing are the Grand Masters of the Qawwali tradition from Pakistan. This is Mir Ali and Sher Ali. They're really recognized as one of the greatest, most distinguished performers of the Qawwali tradition today. And Qawwali, of course, just for listeners who may not be so familiar, Qawwali is a devotional Sufi singing tradition.
Sufi.
Yes, even though the performers may be Sunni, which is the case in Qawwali. Much of Pakistan, of course, is Sunni, but the tradition of Qawwali is a Sufi tradition.
So it shows that in South Asia, Pakistan and India together, they seem to be able to infuse smoothly different culture, tradition, or even sect.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I mean, of course, there will always be those more fundamentalist people who think that shouldn't be the case. But the reality, anywhere in the world, exactly. But in the reality is that this is the life of the people, and many of them. I mean, you can't really take that away because this is the way people have been experiencing and expressing their culture for centuries. And the Qawwali tradition is one of the most passionate and popular.
What do they do exactly when they perform?
Well, okay, so they also, similar to the Mugam, they sing ancient poetry. Their poetry, though, because it's in line with the Sufi philosophy, of course, is that much of the poetry is love poetry, but it is a metaphor also for union with the divine, and it's kind of ecstatic union. So they use metaphors of love, of mystical union, of longing to unite with
and this
the
is
beloved.
Part of the Sufi tradition.
It is absolutely, and which is why we've actually named these two acts, the Mugam and the Qawwali, shows that we're bringing to Kuala Lumpur as the divine beloved, because they both have this understanding of using the metaphor of the beloved, and not just in metaphor, also in reality, as something divine, and also as a metaphor for a communion with the divine. And Qawwali, of course, I think most people would be familiar with the name of Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan. He was the Grand Master of Qawwali, who I think has left the world in awe, really, and really did bring Qawwali to the world stage. Mir and Sher Ali are actually from that same school.
I see.
Yeah, their father, he was taught by Nusrat's father. And so it is also something that they have inherited from the same school as Nusrat. They recognize Nusrat to be also a great master in their tradition. And they're very marvelous because they have, how do I describe them? I saw them live in New York in 1998.
Oh, that's quite some time ago.
Yes, in Town Hall. And I have to say, they've really brought down the house. I've never seen, it was one of the most memorable and incredible concerts I've ever been to.
How do you manage to get them?
How did we manage to get them?
Yeah.
Well, I went after them because I had seen them before and I knew how great they were. I mean, I managed to get in touch with the son, Ejaz, who's actually part of the group and is their manager as well. And Ejaz sings one of the tenor voices and a marvelous singer as well. He will inherit the tradition from them eventually. But it's going to be a real pleasure to have them here. I think Qawwali is something that is a wonderful release and takes the audiences on flights of the imagination and
when you say
and the spirit.
When you say ancient poetry, is it like is it poetry from certain century?
Yeah, many of them are from, well, I think it goes pretty far back. Some of them could date back probably even to like 13th century. Some of them are more recent, but many of them are related to particular poets even. So I think one of the great poets of Qawwali poems is Amir Khusro. So sometimes you have whole programs of just Khusro poetry.
Wow.
Yeah. And of course the Qawwals, they also recognize these certain saints. And so many times they go around also singing at the shrines of different saints in South Asia, both in India as well as in Pakistan.
And besides that, you also have acts from Southeast Asia.
Yes, we do. We have 3 acts that we're bringing from Southeast Asia. One from our neighboring province of Aceh. Yes. And 2 from mainland Southeast Asia. So that would be from Myanmar, a wonderful group of Burmese dancers called Shreman Tabin Dance Theatre.
I think a lot of the listeners from Malaysia might not be aware of countries from the CLMV, Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar and Vietnam, the kind of dance and culture that they have.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's absolutely the case. And I think it's even more so the case with Myanmar. Because Myanmar, of all those countries, I think Myanmar is the one, because of it's been sort of closed off politically. Until now, it's been something of a mystery to the rest of us.
Yeah, what do they dance?
Yeah, but of course, we have in our midst, we have many people from Myanmar in our society, because of course there are many workers who've come. So many of us are already living with Myanmarese, but we know nothing about, or very little, maybe besides the politics, the news of the politics that comes in the mainstream media. But I don't think many of us really know that much about the culture of Myanmar. And it is a really fascinating culture. Plus, it's it's a really resplendent culture. If you just look at the dance, and this is traditional dance, some of which is classical and some of which is also very improvisatory in nature, which is, I think, very unique to Myanmar. It's not so much the case, you don't really find this in some of the other mainland Southeast Asian countries. Like in Thai dance, I think you find less of this, even in Cambodian dance, which Thai and Cambodian dance tends to be, I think, quite a bit more stylized. And Burmese dance can be, however, I think Burmese dance has an enormous amount of spontaneity that is infused and encouraged in the dance.
So are you saying that it's more communal rather than?
Well, it's not just communal. Of course you have what you call folk dances, which is communal. This, however, is actually
for the palace.
There's many different. Some of them I think used to be. Yes, you had of course court dances as well. But what you have today is also this sort of very interesting syncretic tradition called the Zatpue, which is something like, it's part cabaret, it's part a showcase of just really the technical and artistic prowess of these dances.
You danced before, right?
Yes, I actually studied Burmese dance with the master Uwin Maung.
Wow.
This was also in New York. When I was studying there, I had the great fortune of meeting Uwin Maung, who is the son of the great Shreman Tabin, who is the founder of Shreman Tabin Dance Theatre. And so Shreman Tabin Dance Theatre has been around for about 80 years now, and they are the most revered and respected dance theatre group. Totally independent.
Wow.
Not government supported, yeah.
I doubt they're government.
No, they are not, and they've managed to survive until now, despite, through the good and bad days of politics in Myanmar, which is, again, a testimony to the great reverence and popularity of their group. But Shreman Tabin was really revered as a great dancer and an innovator of Burmese dance. And now the group it's been inherited by Uwin Maung, my teacher, and also Uchanta, who is his brother, and also San Min Win, who is a great, very popular, he's a star really in Myanmar, star dancer. Uchanta is as well. They're very, very, very popular and celebrated stars of the Burmese stage, which is why this program I've actually named it Stars of the Burmese Stage, because you are actually going to see the great stars of Burma, both the dancers and the musicians.
I see.
Yeah. And they will be performing. They'll be performing a series of sort of an introduction to different styles of Burmese dance. They will also be doing excerpts of the Ramayana in Burmese dance, which is called the Yamayana in Burmese. Interesting note is that me and my sister will be joining our teacher. Yes, for this performance.
So I'll be seeing you on stage.
You will be. Please come. Yes. So I'm actually going back to Yangon this week for dress rehearsals.
Oh, yeah. That's interesting.
Yes.
And besides Myanmar, which I know you're excited about it.
Absolutely.
You have other countries like Aceh.
Yes, yeah. Well, Aceh, of course, is not a country, but a province.
Sorry, a province in Indonesia.
Yes,
Aceh,
but we have Aceh, and Aceh is a really interesting place as well. Aceh, we're bringing the wonderful Tarian Saman tradition, which is a rhythmic tradition. Of course, this will be one of the highlights of the Rentak Bumi night. It's a rhythmic tradition, no instruments, they just use their body and their hands to sort of do a kind of rhythmic clapping and chanting. And the Tarian Saman of Aceh is found in the Gayo Lues province, and this is in the highlands. I mean, we are bringing the best group from Gayo Lues, especially all the way here to perform. They've never come here before.
By the way, why do you call it Rentak Bumi?
Why do we call it Rentak Bumi?
Yeah.
Well, because
are they calling the spirits from the earth to
well,
join?
you could. I mean, maybe in a metaphorical sense, yes. Because, well, rhythm, of course, is very much related to the earth, and all the rhythmic traditions of this region have a very, very strong sense of the earth and where they come from, both in terms of where they come from and also in terms of yes, like you said, calling up maybe not the spirit but semangat of the earth. They do actually believe that. For instance, we're bringing part of the Rentak Bumi tradition night. Besides the Tarian Saman, is of course our wonderful Rebana Ubi tradition from Kelantan, which is of course those large drums. They have very interesting ideas, of course, about, being part of the earth and how even the way the drums are made, there's a whole process and a whole understanding of human beings' place in nature and society. And it's very much linked to, so the rhythms that they play is very much linked to their relationship with the land as well. And I think that's the case for most rhythmic traditions.
And from land, we move on to water. You have performance in Vietnam.
You're calling it all the elements.
Yeah.
Indeed, yes. We have the marvelous water puppetry tradition from Vietnam, and performed by, I think, the most marvelous group from Hanoi called the Thang Long Water Puppet Theatre, which I think I've actually personally never seen it. Edin has. Edin was the one who said you must absolutely get this group. I've never seen it, but from everything I've heard, it's one of the most memorable performances you could ever experience. It's absolutely charming, fascinating, magical. Of course, just hearing about what they have to do to set up the stage is already
I wonder how are they going to flood the stage?
Well, it's actually, if I can just share with you, it's actually quite complicated.
Yes.
It takes them 6 hours. 6 hours just to build the stage.
Wow.
And it's another 6 hours to take it down.
Wow.
And we've actually had quite a few meetings and conversations and phone calls just about how we're going to do this technically.
You have to call an engineer just
absolutely,
to fix that.
Yeah. But it's going to be something very marvelous. And both the Vietnamese water puppet show as well as the Burmese dance are going to be at Kuash Theatre in Tamatun.
I see.
Yes.
So there will be different venues.
Different venues, yeah. They're all in different venues.
We will share about it on the next after this break.
Yes.
Okay.
The Durian Heat, bringing big ideas and critical opinions in Southeast Asia.
Hey, this is Arlene and you're back with me on the Durian Heat, where today we discuss about diversity, focusing on traditional music and cultural performance. Of course, with me, Pauline Fan from PUSAKA to share all the information and also unique cultures from Southeast Asia, Malaysia, as well as internationally. So you've been sharing a lot about the different performances and all. So how can people join diversity and there's a lot of different venues as well for
yes,
all these
there are
different acts.
many different venues. The best one-stop place to get all your information, of course, is the diversity website, www.diversecity.my. That's DIVERSECITY.
So C.
.my. So that's the best place to get all the information about the entire festival, and also to get tickets for many of the performances. One or two of the performances, however, like the Alim Kazimov concert, you will have to get tickets for at the Dewan Philharmonic Petronas. So that performance is because it's a special performance at Dewan Philharmonic. That one you have to call the Dewan Philharmonic or go to the box office, or also get your tickets online. And we actually recommend very, very strongly for all performances, especially for Alim Kazimov, that you get tickets now and before August 31st, because that is still early bird sales. And by the time September comes around, ticket prices are going to go up. So go out and get your tickets now.
So how much is per ticket?
Well, it varies. There's different prices for all for various shows. For the most part, we do try to keep ticket prices affordable. There was one or two shows that the ticket prices are slightly higher, but of course that's because of the stature of the artist, as well as the venue. And also the guests of honor, because we have some royal guests who are joining us for those evenings.
Royal guests. So anyway, I want to know different venues for all the different acts. Maybe you can just give us...
I'll give you an overview, yes.
Overview about...
Yes.
Yeah.
So Alim Kazimov will be at the Dewan Philharmonic Petronas, and that is on Monday, September 7th at 8:30 p.m. Best thing to do is to call the Dewan Philharmonic number, or to email them, or to stop by, or even book your tickets, I think, from their website. That should be up by the end of the day. Yeah.
And besides that?
So the Ali Brothers, the Kawali concert is going to be at the Civic Center Auditorium, MPPJ. And that is going to be on the 20th of September, which is a Sunday, at 8:30 p.m. as well. Those tickets are available at the Diversity website, or they will be this week. And the same goes with the Vietnamese water puppetry and the Burmese dance. These two shows are going to be at Kuash Theatre, which is at the Pusat Creative Tuanku Bainun in Taman Tun Dr. Ismail. Tickets again are available through the Diversity website, so not through the venue, but through the Diversity website, and that too should be up by this week.
So can I buy ticket for everything?
Yeah, I think you can actually. I think you need to go to the Diversity website to see...
Rather than buying tickets separately for each other event? Is it possible?
I think so. I think there are tickets that you can buy, just a sort of genre ticket or something. I think it's on the website. Yes.
I see.
Yes. And then, of course, there are some of our traditional performances are going to be on an outdoor stage at Dataran Medan Pasar. This is going to be a specially built stage. DBKL is building the stage for us. They're one of our partners in the festival. And they actually suggested using Dataran Medan Pasar. It's a very nice space, because that's, of course, where you have a lot of the heritage buildings. You have this row of shop houses, very beautiful shop houses. And so we sort of wanted to make use of Kuala Lumpur as a city, you know, so not just use the traditional, or the not traditional, conventional venues, but also use Kuala Lumpur as a city and highlight the beauty of the Kuala Lumpur itself. And so the outdoor stage is going to be an interesting one as well. Dataran Medan Pasar, which is right behind the Central Market, in case you don't know where it is. It's the one with the little clock tower. That's going to have a stage there for the first 2 weeks. On that stage will be the wonderful Nutting Rhapsody, who I mentioned earlier, from Sarawak. They are performing on the 5th of September. They will be, there's another act going to open that concert, which is Dewanga Sati, the marvelous young urban men who are all playing wonderful traditional music. They're playing
I like that young urban men
Yes. But this is again to show you how attractive tradition is to many young people. And this young group called Dewanga Sati are very, very innovative. They're all also but deeply rooted in their traditions. And so Zulkifli Ramli, he is the leader of the group, and he plays the gambus. And he was the student of the late Fadzil Ahmad, the great gambus player. And we've been working with them for quite a while. They play ghazal, asli, joget, you name it, zapin, all of those things. The singer is the wonderful Eddie Nazrin, who was one of the Juara Bintang Asli Remaja, I can't remember what year that was, 2000 something, but incredible voice, really incredible, very, very old school voice. And so they're nice, they're a wonderful group to engage with as well. The next day on the 6th, there will be the Portuguese from Malacca, the wonderful, marvelous, you've seen them.
Yeah, I've seen them.
Please come to see them again. They will be there on September 6th, the 1511 or Maliao dance
They make everyone feel
Malacca,
happy.
they do, and of course there'll be a lot of dancing, a lot of celebration, as they always bring. And then that following week, on that Medan Pasar stage, Petronas is actually coming on as a sponsor for some traditional performances.
Is this part of diversity?
This is part of our, yes, it is. It's part of diversity and part of our traditional PUSAKA stage. And so some people may not know that Petronas has actually been, for the past few years, they've been doing these wonderful cultural grants. And so, which actually goes to practitioners of the traditional arts. And so we, in conversation with them, we said, why don't we highlight some of the grantees of these cultural awards? And so they'll be bringing 3 or 4 different traditions to KL on that Medan Pasar stage, including Zapin from Johor, the Randai Berkaba from Negeri Sembilan, and the GK from Perlis. And those are all free shows at Medan Pasar during the second week of the festival. So
free shows?
Yes.
And you don't have to buy a ticket. You can just...
Those you can just go to and enjoy the show.
So for students, I know you are...
Yes, absolutely.
You can enjoy this without spending anything.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah. Even for the other shows at Medan Pasar, many of them, standing room is free. Seats are a very reasonable 20 ringgit.
Okay.
Yes.
So other than the whole schedule, what else that people can expect from diversity as well as from the traditional side of
the one last venue that I do need to mention, which is a very special venue, is going to be the Chansi Shu Yuan Temple in Chinatown, which is one of the great and really beautiful heritage temples. It's actually, I was told, not a temple, it's a clan house association.
What's the difference, by the way?
So a temple is like a Kuan Yin temple, right? So the main purpose of a temple is, of course, a devotion to a particular deity, whereas a clan house would be something like the Kukong Si, which is really more, they will have shrines and altars, and of course they will have deities there, but the main purpose is, of course, to
for all the clans,
for the clan, and actually for the ancestors of that clan, to commemorate them and to pay respects to them. And so this is actually the Chan clan house that was set up in 1896. So it's 119 years old.
Wow.
This place, it's one of the first, I think, clan house associations.
So they have all the clans, the ancestors.
Yeah, they do, and it's an absolutely beautiful place. I was just there over the weekend, and it's a stunning place. I mean, I spent maybe 2 hours there just walking to every corner of the compound, and there's so much detail even in the architecture, much of all of which I think has actually survived from the 119 years ago. And so the details, like the lantern holders and the stained glass and everything, the rooftops, of course, the relief work is really a work of art, really. And we will be holding our wonderful Teochew puppet show in this temple, and so that's going to be a real experience as well, to see a traditional Teochew puppet show in this wonderful
I want to
heritage
ask you
space.
because when we talk about Chinese performance, right? Usually we are either very ignorant about it, or it's always the same thing, like the fan dance. So when you talk about the Teochew puppet show, I know. A lot of us might need to be enlightened a bit. Can you just briefly explain what is Teochew puppet? See, something
like the fan dance, I wouldn't really consider. I mean, this is something like ornamentation, right? And it's the kind of dance that you see at dinner shows. And it's not really. Whereas something like, the Teochew puppet tradition is a tradition. It's an oral tradition, and a many faceted oral tradition that's been passed down really for generations. Not just the art of the puppetry itself, but the stories. The stories themselves are old. Don't know how old they are, but they're definitely several centuries old. And they come, I think, from particular provinces in China. Teochew, of course, is the dialect of Teochew so it is performed in Teochew. And the particular stories that Miss Lingo performs is, I think, particular to that Teochew region. And it's quite amazing to watch her because at least I'm not quite sure which story she's going to be performing. It depends. She might do two different stories on
there won't
two
be
different
any
nights.
Fans, I'm supposed.
Anyone?
Any fans?
No, there won't be definitely no fans. But you may get wonderful princesses or ghosts and merchants and very interesting characters, and which reflective of probably the feudal society in China at the time, because most of these stories came from that time.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, they came from pre-revolutionary China, of course.
But do they incorporate their struggle in early Malaya into their story?
Well, that's an interesting question. I'm not sure if they have, actually. I think, for the most part, Ling actually performs old stories. However, it might be an interesting question to put to her if she has done something which is actually reflective of Malaysia itself. But of course, many of these stories are very universal. Just like the Teochew puppetry story is as universal as the wayang kulit story, and is as universal, of course, as the Ramayana that's being performed both by our wayang kulit and by the Burmese dancers. And so many of these old stories are completely versatile, also very easily adapted to contemporary sensibilities.
That's very good, and definitely encourage everyone to come to diversity, and of course go to the traditional side of the diversity shows. And if you don't know anything much, you can always go to our PUSAKA website, and they will definitely reply to you if you have any questions, inquiries. So there you go. Thank you very much, Pauline Fan.
You're welcome.
Durian ASEAN is your #1 radio station for anything and everything concerning ASEAN. Since Malaysia is the chairman of ASEAN 2015, that makes it even more important for us to know the significance of ASEAN. Our daily breakfast show, the ASEAN Breakfast Call, is dedicated to raising awareness on ASEAN. Let's go through our breakfast show.
ASEAN Daily happens every Monday to Friday, 8 o'clock in the morning, with at least 3 cups of coffee. We discuss, critique, and provide a concise background to the issues that are discussed. Want to know what's brewing in ASEAN? Tune into ASEAN Daily.
Monday Morning Matters is solely dedicated to ASEAN issues. Want to know more about the 10 member states? What is the AEC? What is its aim and purposes? We have all the answers for you.
The Durian Heat runs from Tuesday to Thursday at 9 a.m. We analyze hot relevant topics concerning Malaysia or Southeast Asia. We also do invite some experts and drill them on the matter, leaving no stone unturned. Topics range from politics, economic, business, and other important areas.
Anything can happen Friday. ASEAN is rich in art, history, tradition, and culture. So we explore the social-cultural part of Southeast Asia. Expect to hear from musicians, theatre practitioners, fashion designers, and lifestyle experts providing their insights on the topic. To listen to all our programs, just log on to www.durianasean.com. You can download the TuneIn app on your smartphone. Follow us on Facebook.